Good evening. We are coming to you from the W.C. O'Neill Arena in St. Andrews, where members of the Town Council of St. Andrews and members of our senior town staff have gathered tonight for a presentation on what the town has and is doing and will do in relation to dealing with the COVID-19 crisis. As everyone knows, this is something that has been put upon us around the world and is now being felt even here in St. Andrews, in the area of St. Andrews, although at this point in time we have no cases that we're aware of. But nonetheless, we all need to be prepared. First off, I'm going to turn this over to our Chief Administrative Officer and Treasurer, Chris Spear, who will make a presentation on behalf of staff, which is meant to inform the public and also to bring members of council up to speed on some recent developments. Mr. Spear?
Thank you, Worship. Before I get into my presentation, I would like to remind those that may be watching the simulcast that we do have 3 ways that you can submit questions for after the presentations by staff and council. You can try emailing Paul Nopper, Town Clerk, at pnopper, P-N-O-P-P-E-R, at townofstandrews.ca, or go to our Facebook page and leave a comment there. Or if you're watching the simulcast on YouTube, leave it in the comments section and we'll pick it up there. So again, there's 3 ways that we will advise you again later that you can submit questions for consideration. If you've come up with a question later, feel free to call town office tomorrow or in the preceding time, as we will be open and fielding any questions that we can help you with. So council and fellow citizens, thank you for my opportunity to address council and the public regarding the novel coronavirus, or COVID-19. I would like to acknowledge the volunteers of CHCO-TV for making this simulcast possible so that the community can participate and hear firsthand what is going on. I am sure we all understand by now we are moving through uncharted waters. This level of concern on a world basis has not been seen over 100 years. We are testing the resourcefulness and willingness of our leaders, government staff, and the community at large to contain the pandemic. We are working together to minimize the effect on matters of health, social, emotional, and economic stresses. The effects from the isolation protocols could be felt for years, but is necessary to ensure it is contained to as few people as possible. I don't want to go in depth, as we have all been inundated with the information on coronavirus by a constant stream of news, web links, and for that matter, community gossip. Very briefly, here's what we know. COVID-19 is a respiratory illness caused by a novel or a new virus not previously identified in people and first detected in Wuhan, China. It is extremely fast moving through community transmission and has overwhelmed healthcare in China, Italy, Spain, and Iran. Worldwide, there have been nearly 205,000 identified cases of COVID-19. In Canada, as of this morning, there were 569 confirmed cases with another 26 probable cases. In New Brunswick, there are 2 confirmed cases, and I think I heard there's 2 more problematic cases to take that up to 8. But the most important thing to understand that is, as of right now, there have been no reported deaths of COVID-19 in New Brunswick. If there is such a thing as good news at a time like this, it is that we saw this virus working its way internationally towards us. Although there may be discussion in the future about a response to the situation, the governments have reacted quickly to address the issues, provide citizens with information so they could be prepared, and have invested resources that tackle the issues that may arise. Currently, the governments of Canada and New Brunswick are only running essential services and encouraging clients to call ahead before presenting in person. That said, we know many frontline workers at hospitals and first responders may become overwhelmed in the coming weeks. In addition to new disinfection procedures, emergency rooms, doctors' offices, and other healthcare facilities will experience much higher volumes as individuals are directed to them to be diagnosed, tested, and if need be, treated. The public health officer, as well as the premier, are providing daily updates to the province via press conferences at 2:30 p.m. to keep us all informed. The regional public officer of health for our region is holding a teleconference weekly to enlighten us on ongoing initiatives, provide feedback on next steps, and allow us to provide feedback and ask questions. And that discussion is meant just for staff at the municipal level. New information is coming all the time, including public health recommendations to minimize the spread of the virus. We appreciate the public's patience and understanding during this challenging time. The current understanding of the cycle of the virus between early detection and final containment within a population is about 8 to 10 weeks. This is why, as a nation, it's so important for us to work together to minimize social interaction that may allow this virus to inadvertently spread. Now, if you think you have symptoms related to COVID-19, please call Telecare. They are the first level of diagnosis. If they determine that you should be tested, they will provide instructions on where to go, when to go, and staff at the receiving location will be notified as they have special handling procedures. Again, I can't emphasize enough, do not appear in person. Please call Telecare. As always, if an emergency and you require immediate care, call 911. Now, our local response. Our priority is staff, citizens, and those in the greater community. In an effort to contain the spreading of the coronavirus, all town facilities, including town hall, library, youth center, and arena, are now closed until further notice. Disinfecting protocols have been stepped up to protect ourselves and the limited interaction within our various buildings. These practices will continue indefinitely to reduce the chances of infection. Town Clerk Paul Knopper has been acting as the coordination point for collecting information, updating social media, and providing information to council and the public. We have created a page directly off our webpage, townofstandrews.ca, to pass along information and provide links to the most up-to-date information. Knowledge is key, and as staff require new information, we are doing our best to pass it along. The fire department, by its nature, always has contingency plans in place. Training and protocols are in practice to protect the chief and his volunteers. We also have mutual aid agreements in place in the event our volunteers are quarantined and a large group of our department are unable to respond to calls. At this point in time, although we are prepared, we have no concerns that we will not be able to respond to calls in our typical way. Also, by their nature, the RCMP have contingency plans in place. Currently, they are limiting direct contact with individuals by suspending in-person services such as fingerprinting, criminal record checks, vulnerable sector checks, and general information requests. Front counter services will still be available for reporting of crimes and or non-emergency complaints. Whenever possible, members of the public should call rather than reporting to a detachment in person. To further protect the officers, they are working from their cars more, getting special equipment and instruction on dealing with individuals who may present a risk of COVID-19. Within our own operations, there are many redundancies within staff to ensure the continued business of the town. Within the water and sewer utility, we have 2 employees who can run both plants independently and 2 employees within public works who are trained to operate the facilities as well. Conversely, the water and sewer technician has experience within a previous position working for public works department and if needed can step in. This duplication in training ensures services will continue under all circumstances. Within Town Hall, as a small staff, we are pretty much cross-trained on each other's duties and are able to operate with minimal interruption. Community services. In collaboration with the Kiwanis Club of St. Andrews, we are setting up a volunteer service for those that are potentially infected or those vulnerable populations that prefer to stay home to stay safe. They are offering food and pharmacy deliveries within the town limits. You will either call Joey's Independent Grocer or Cockburn's Pharmacy with the credit cards to place an order. These businesses will pack the products and volunteers will deliver to your home. A big community thank you to all three of these organizations for stepping up in these challenging times. In addition to this service, the town is collecting names of volunteers and those in need for other things, such as check-ins for those in isolation or running other errands as needed. We are already seeing major effects to the economy. Stock markets have seen large declines and many items may be unavailable as major manufacturing centers internationally essentially shut down or diverted their efforts towards the manufacture of supplies to fight the COVID-19 outbreak. None of us will be immune to the effects of this economic fallout. As a community, we should appreciate the challenges that small business owners will be suffering for many months ahead. More than ever, when possible, we should be buying local. Once this has passed, and assure me it will pass, we should be inviting friends and family to vacation, eat, or buy in St. Andrews. This behavior will help the local businesses that rely on the tourism industry to ride the storm. The federal government is announcing new economic aid packages for businesses and individuals who are losing income due to the new reality. We'll be posting information to our website so those that are in need can apply for help right away. As far as social responsibility, as we have all heard, the responsibility to contain this virus lies with us as individuals. Improved cleaning practices and minimizing contact with others is the best solution. As we are witnessing, many cleaning supplies are now in low availability. The public health officer recommends 100 milliliters of chlorine to 900 milliliters of water, spray onto a surface, but leave for a minute, then wipe dry. Many of our residents are returning from international destinations where they spent the winter. We implore you, please stay home, away from the community for 2 weeks. Local volunteers will be happy to pick up your groceries and prescriptions. Thanks to social media, you can keep in touch, even live, with your circle of friends in the community. After the recommended 14 days in isolation, we will be happy to catch up in person, have dinner, and see you around town. As a conclusion, I'll say we are in unprecedented territory. Drastic changes to our lives in the short term will help reduce the infection rate of COVID-19. That said, from my perspective, all levels of government have been taking this matter seriously in addressing their concerns of the public. Local organizations are stepping up to provide those in need and support them when they most need it. I wish to thank my staff for their work, patience, and cooperation as new procedures have been put in place. I appreciate the patience of our citizens as our focus and services have changed over the short term to address this issue. But most importantly, I'm delighted seeing our community members helping each other by respecting social space, providing help when needed, and following the advice of our public health officials. I would like to end my presentation with a quote from Vince Lombardi. Individual commitment to a group effort, that is what makes a team work, a company work, a society work, a civilization work. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Yep, thank you, Mr. Spear. That was good, and I'm looking to see if we have any questions that have been brought in while Mr. Spear was speaking. Have we got anything that we need to respond to from the public yet?
Through you, Your Worship, no, we have not received any questions as of this time.
No questions, good. Members of council, any comments from you while we were on the air and waiting for people to ask us questions? Deputy Mayor or Mr. Group, sorry, Councillor Group?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to, I guess, emphasize a couple of points that the CAO made. Firstly, I'd like to thank our staff for all the hard work and diligence that they have been doing through this crisis. They have worked tirelessly to keep us safe. This is a stressful time for all, and I realize, and we all realize, that many of you may be concerned, and for good reason. This is a time for community to show compassion, to take care of our most vulnerable, to ensure that everyone in our community is safe. As Mr. Spear pointed out, the town has put in place a free delivery service for groceries and medicine, and we're using very strict safety protocols. Please make use of this service and help reduce the exposure for yourself and in the stores, the staff in the stores for this virus. Currently, we have over 30 volunteers from the community that have stepped forward to volunteer their time to deliver groceries and medicine. We already started, and we have delivered groceries and medicine today. The volunteers are also ready to check on vulnerable persons, those in self-isolation. So please call 529-5120, that's the town office, to put your name on our check-in list. If you're coming from abroad, please register with the town and stay home. And I'll just put this up, and you can maybe zoom in on this if you could. This is the poster that was sent out this morning for the free delivery service. And the way it works is you call the store, you place your order, you use a credit card, or you call the pharmacy, use your credit card, and we have people that will pick up the order, deliver it to your doorstep in a safe manner. So please make use of that service. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just to start, I did want to echo our CAO's comments on those that are arriving from international, from whether it be snowbirds or people that happen to be visiting still to our community. We are not high-ranking officials in Ottawa. We are not high-ranking officials in Fredericton. We are your neighbors, and it is absolutely imperative that you stay home if you've been doing international travel for 14 days. Whether you look okay, feel okay, it does not matter. It comes down, to be completely honest, the safety of your neighbor. So if you have been traveling, please stay home. We just heard from Councillor Grew that there is delivery systems in place. There is absolutely no excuse for you to be in our community, social distancing or not. You should be in your own home in isolation for 14 days. All this being said, it is an extremely challenging time for our community, but it's at these times that we're always reminded of why we live in St. Andrews. The amount of spirit, the amount of consideration that people are giving for your neighbors, whether it be Joey and his staff at the independent grocer, setting up special hours for seniors, whether it be the Kiwanis most recently volunteering to deliver free of charge anything you need from the pharmacy store or the grocery store, or whether it be CHCO who is filming this live so we can all respect social distancing 6 feet apart and not have a bunch of people here, so that way you can stay informed. It truly is at the end of all this, and we will get through it like the CAO said, but the reality is we're going to get through this by being safe and supporting each other. So far this community is a leader in that and will continue to be that. And the last thing I just wanted to say is I wanted to echo Councillor Grew's comments on our staff. Chris Spear has been literally over the last year and a half carrying this community on his back. Through transition, he's volunteered for multiple roles or I guess appointed at various roles, but he has stepped up, and it's no different with this plan. We have Paul Knopper, who is our town clerk. He has been in his role for 2 months. He is already into response plan. I can tell you this, that we are lucky to live in this community with such a dedicated town staff. We have been leaders in communication, contingency planning, and just overall the way that our staff is conducting themselves, and that goes to the whole team. Public Works, the arena, which is our emergency center. I hope that we do not need to obviously respond any more than we are and everybody stays in the house and this passes, but I can assure you that you are in a safe community, and it's because of the leadership that's demonstrated by our staff. So on behalf of the entire council and myself, I just wanted to say thank you to town staff for being leaders in our community.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Henderson. I'd just like to add a little bit from my perspective. In the last week or two, I've been extremely impressed by community organizations who, when faced with crisis and major things that they may have to defer, have come to quick decisions and good decisions about things that have to be foregone. I know that the major fundraiser for the Heather Curling Club is a bonspiel that should have taken place at the end of this month, and because of this crisis, they have foregone that, and I think that takes tremendous courage when you know that you are going to face some economic hardships in your organization, but you're doing the right thing. As well, I note that last night there was a meeting of the organizing committee for Paddle Fest, very important kickoff, tourism a draw in May, and they'll be communicating with our staff probably by tomorrow about their decision, but it sounds like they're going down the same path, knowing that it makes no sense under the circumstances to bring hundreds of people from outside the town into the town until we know that it's safe for everyone here and for everyone who might come here and go away and not be safe if they came somewhere where they shouldn't have been. So we're going to have to forego all of these things, and it's going to hurt a little bit, but I think it's going to be the only way out of it. It really, as everyone has said so far, it's about individual responsibility. Sure. Question?
Through you, Your Worship, we haven't received any questions at this point from the public.
Okay, so-
I would suggest possibly passing it to CHCO for additional questions that may have come in.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Any?
How are you preparing for the snowbirds coming home in terms of communicating with them before they get here?
How are we, Mr. Spear?
The great part about a small community is we basically know all these snowbirds that are returning, basically because we're jealous every year when they return with a tan, when we've still got our toques and jackets on. So probably because of the small community, we will be calling them and just advising them what the best practices are and the services that are being offered in order for them to be able to stay at home and make it easier. I think it's important for the public to understand that this council or staff have the ability or the legal ability to make these people stay home. You know, I can't tackle them, I can't arrest them, nor can the RCMP. That has to come from public health officials and things. But nonetheless, if you know people that are coming in that you think may not get the message, please let the town hall know, and we'll just make a friendly phone call reminding them what is happening and how everyone is working together to make their lives easier. It's extremely important to know. I suspect these people will be getting lots of information as they enter the country, whether through air or through car, so it shouldn't be unknown to them. But again, we'd appreciate any people that do know of people returning to call the town hall, and we'll call them and just give them a friendly reminder of what is hope they'll follow through, and also to provide them contact information so they can get in contact with the Kiwanis and things. Because unfortunately, for many of them, they'll come home to empty cupboards, and so their first priority of business will be to either hit the pharmacy or to hit the grocery store.
Could I make an addition to that? This is probably more to the point, is I have become aware of individuals who have made a quick trip to Calais to get food, and just to state that international travel is international travel, and Calais, Maine is included in international travel now, and the advisory from the federal government and the provincial health department is if you're coming from abroad, which includes Calais, you're going into they're requesting you go into a 14-day self-imposed quarantine. So before you go to the post office in Calais to check your mail, you may want to consider that. And it is a fairly, I guess it's prudence, but it's having an abundance of caution in these times is something that will get us through this.
How are you ensuring when people are volunteering that we still keep a safe distance?
With the volunteers, we have very, very stringent safety protocols that we have published to our volunteers. We have asked the volunteers to maintain a minimum of 6 feet away from any person. When they deliver the goods, they will put them on the doorstep, ring the doorbell, and back up 10 feet so that they do not come in contact. When they finish each delivery run, they will disinfect their vehicles, disinfect the containers that the groceries were in, just to make sure that we do not have any cross-contamination. So we're taking the whole matter of delivering groceries extremely seriously. We're almost to the point of handling the groceries as almost like hazardous materials, just so we don't have that cross-contamination. All the delivery people will have gloves on. They're taking every precaution. And at the end of each day, delivery people will be washing their clothing and taking a shower to make sure that they don't contaminate themselves.
Obviously, there are a lot of rumors that are going around, people worried that there are cases in town. How would you like people to proceed when they do hear a rumor, but it's causing fear or panic?
I would say that the offer that was made by staff of our town, that if someone hears a rumor, they should get that information to our town staff as quickly as possible, and that then we can follow up on it if it appears to be something that should be followed up on, put it in the hands of the right people, and still maintain some sort of confidentiality of the information. So I would not hesitate. It's everybody's problem if there are problems going on, and I know people don't want to tell tales on their neighbors or someone that they see on the street, but this is beyond serious now, and we need to take care of that. One thing I wanted to comment on, just a part of that, I think, is that it's very difficult. I know myself 2 weeks ago, no, a little more than a week ago, I guess it is now, you know, we had a presentation by one of our consultants that had done a major piece of work, and after a very nice presentation, you know, she came up to me and put her hand out, and I shook it, because that's what you would normally do in a business-like situation in that environment. It's very hard for people to break their habits, and I thought about that all the way home in my car. Why did I do that? But I did that because that's the thing I've always done all my career in those kinds of situations. Same with keeping your distance from other people. It is very difficult. If you happen to be a friendly person, it's very difficult to think always about, ooh, I better go over here, or I better steer clear. So there's a lot of relearning that has to happen here, and we're hoping that people are able to do that. But the main thing is you have to get it inside your head that you have to make a change, right? And the problem that we're going to run into, or if people have their heads stuck in the sand and don't believe that there's a problem, those people are going to be very difficult to deal with. So we're imploring, as we've said, we're imploring everyone just to think twice before you do anything these days when you're out and about, and by all means stay home as much as you can, because that's usually the best place to avoid contact with other people.
Obviously, we're a tourist town. Can you speak to the small businesses and if there have been immediate actions by the government or even in the municipality in terms of making preparations to take care of them as we get closer to the tourist season?
I can answer that for you.
Certainly.
So the town has been very active in meeting with the Chamber of Commerce as well as individual businesses and finding out the challenges and anticipated challenges of the upcoming season. So when it comes specifically to tourism, like you mentioned, I've had conversations with the province and they've done a number of actions that they're planning. Some of them are strategies for when this is passed. For example, they were investing in international markets. They have cut all spend in international markets. And once this passes and when this passes, they plan to focus on a more staycation strategy, marketing to maritime provinces versus those broad international trips that are canceled. And as well, the province, if you go through the town link, the town has it on their website. There is links to the province and to the federal government. There is programs that are there to support employers, and the regular guidelines that apply to EI are not the regular guidelines for this. So I won't specifically get into them because I don't have them in front of me, but there is support out there for small businesses. But once this is all said and done, we do have so much to offer. It's not the appropriate time to be out marketing St. Andrews, but we are an outdoor community. We have so much to offer in the outdoors, from attractions to beaches to being out on the water. It's a beautiful spot to go away and not be elbow to elbow in a city with people. But the appropriate time to start marketing this community is not right now. We want to make sure that everything is under control, because right now having just our residents here is all we actually need, and we're not looking to bring more people in until we know this is in the past.
And just to follow up with employees who might be out of work right now or worried about their next source of income, what advice do you have for them in terms of figuring out their financials right now?
Absolutely. I would recommend, first of all, they could contact their the MLA's office or MP's office. There is work programs that are in place. I do not have that information right in front of me, but again, the regular guidelines that apply for EI do not apply in this situation. And there's 3 different scenarios where you are covered, and some of them are people that, again, normally would not receive it. So definitely, the town has that posted on the website. Is that correct, Chris?
Well,
If
first thing
not, we'll
tomorrow, but I
post
think
it
it's
tomorrow
there
to
now.
make sure that they know where they can go for EI, and as well, we can share it on our social media page as well tomorrow.
Since you're already speaking with the chamber and members of the chamber, what is the feedback you're hearing in terms of, are people hopeful for the summer season? Are there cancellations? Where are we at with that?
So there's a lot of different agencies right now that are actually measuring that, whether it be Tie-in-B. I know the Atlantic Chamber of Commerce is actually circulating a survey right now to understand the impacts. And myself, I've had conversations with CCRTA on a more local level to understand the impacts. There has been cancellations, but the big concern hasn't been a large number of cancellations. It's the fact that the bookings have stopped. People are not making travel plans. So as much as I'd like to say that this is not going to have impact on our tourism season, this is going to have impact on our tourism season, but once this is in the past, we can focus on minimizing those impacts and have a local strategy to encourage people to get outside and enjoy the outdoors.
Through your worship, we had 2 questions that came on to the board here. So I believe we have discussed the first one, but I will read it anyways. The question was, what is the best contact for small businesses to understand the new policies and assistance that may be available? This is especially difficult to navigate for seasonal businesses. I believe we've covered that question. The second question that has popped up here is, as of today, the border has been closed to tourists or shoppers. Yesterday, Premier Higgs stated that if traveling to neighborhood towns, the international restrictions do not exist. Is this the case? And that, I believe Councillor Grew did touch on that already, but I'll pass it over to Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Your Worship, just while he was reading that, I had a moment to look. So for people that are wondering in regards to EI claims, Service Canada has set up a dedicated phone line for inquiries regarding EI claims related to COVID-19. The number is 1-833-381-2725. And you can call this number of 1. You need to apply for EI sickness benefits because you're unable to work because you must self-isolate for 14 days. The 1-week wait period has been waived for those whom are in this case. Number 2, you have been laid off because of COVID-19 pandemic and are looking to initiate a claim for regular EI benefits. And the third one is you are an employee or an employer who is looking to apply for financial support through the EI work sharing program due to COVID-19 pandemic. So once again, the number is 1-833-381-2725.
Second point about travel across the border, today was really the day that was resolved, okay? And the details are going to be not available until probably tomorrow. I would suggest again that anybody locally could call Town Hall and we'll be able to have exactly that kind of information. My understanding of it, and I watched a lot of it on TV as it unfolded, is that non-essential means non-essential. You're not going over to buy a frozen turkey at Walmart in Calais. And I can't believe that there would be any truth to the fact that if you happen to be wanting to go to Eastport, you could drive through Calais and go to Eastport. You can't go across the border for non-essential things. And I think you should interpret non-essential very widely, not narrowly. And some people will tell you that it's essential to get a deal on gasoline by going over every day. Well, that's just nonsense. That's not essential. And so you should avoid going across the border and at all, unless, in fact, I can't even think of a reason. There probably are some reasons why you would have to go to Calais, but getting your mail or getting gas is not one of them. So we have to take this seriously. I think most people are. I see evidence of that. One of the things I wanted, not to change the subject, but one of the things I wanted to say is a lot of local businesses have already adopted different sort of processes to try to help this. I know that at Joey's Independent Grocery, they set up pre-shopping times for seniors early in the morning and on Sunday morning so that the congestion the number of people in the store at a time will go down. I think that's very laudatory in terms of people thinking ahead. I know some sit-down restaurants are now walk-through and pick-up-your coffee restaurants without any seats because they've taken the seats out so that people won't stay there, because that's part of the social distancing that you would hope people will do, but they don't always do that. But if there's no place to sit, then I guess you're not going to sit. So, you know, those may be small things, but they are showing that people understand and accept that this is a serious crisis and they have to make changes, and they're doing it. So, and maybe not everybody is, but the more people do it, the momentum starts with one or two people, and eventually everybody catches on, and hopefully we'll catch on in time to avoid serious consequences.
Through your worship, just a point on the cross-border. It was listed as if it is essential or urgent travel will be permitted for the foreseeable future, but any additional non-essential travel is closed at the border. So trucking, shipping will continue, but any non-essential grocery shopping, gas, fuel, you will not be allowed to cross the border.
Okay, good. And again, this is just an example of things that people are already thinking about, and now they've been changed. And it also shows the way in which this works, you know, federally, provincially, and then municipally. In other words, we can only go so far until the lead is taken by the other levels of government in certain places. We can do a lot for ourselves, but there are some things we can't go too far too fast without having the guidelines put in place by other levels of government. Councillor Grew?
Thank you, Worship. Another proactive measure that's happened in our community is Cockburn's Pharmacy, effective today, they have shut down their pharmacy with the exception of, it's a walk-in, basically a walk-up service. They have a counter at the side of the pharmacy where you can they dispense the products, but essentially it is curtailing the interaction between their staff, the pharmacist, and the public for the safety of the entire community. And I think they should be applauded for taking that bold step.
Through your worship, we just still want to remind everyone, if they think of questions over this evening or into tomorrow, or have any questions at any time, that they can please call the town office, 529-5120. They will be provided to me as the direct line, as I have been the communications officer on this, and will be able to disseminate information as needed and based on their questions. So please, again, folks, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, do not hesitate to contact us.
Been smaller groups gathering in town. Do you have any advice to those citizens who might feel safe because they're gathering with people who haven't traveled? Would you like people to start reducing even those small groups?
Well, yeah, I think it really doesn't matter, because what we don't know is we don't know how much community transmission of this is taking place. It's obvious if somebody's come from away, and most of the cases seem to have a travel perspective to them. There are people that have been somewhere else where it was more rampant and they've come back, but I still think that the getting together, one of the suggestions that was made is if you want to get together in the great outdoors, then there's lots of room to have social distance. The problem of getting together in somebody's kitchen is that you don't have social distance. It does raise another point though, and that's the whole mental health aspect of self-isolation or quarantine, and the fact that people aren't used to that, and it can be dangerous, and therefore the check-in services particularly, because I know a lot of people get so overwrought about this that they could very well be sitting at home and suffering emotionally, because they don't all have people they can call on the telephone or Skype with, in terms of, so we have to be aware of that. And I think it's not something that's in the fore right now, but we have to make some provisions for that as we go along. And so I think that's going to be something that we might face down the road.
So through you, Your Worship, I just want to mention a couple of comments that have come across, and this goes to Councillor Grew and all the work that the community groups are doing, that everyone is very appreciative of the home delivery services. It's a great program, and thank you to all the volunteers that are participating in this. It's an essential service that we're doing, and we can't be more proud of the community as a whole.
One comment following up on the cross-border decision today. I think it would be a wise move on people's part just to travel less altogether, even if it's within New Brunswick, because do you really have to go to St. John? Yeah, I really want to go to Walmart, but do I really have to go there? That's the kind of decision making that should be made right now. We should be all, if you like, hunkering down to figure out what goes on, because it changes almost every hour if you watch TV. Something's coming along that impacts people continuously, it seems, for the last few days. And I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. So maybe you should stop driving around and watch your TV and make sure you know everything that's going on that could affect you.
In terms of getting information, where would you recommend people look to get information that's truthful and useful and helpful and not fear-mongering?
Well, I think there's lots of options for that, but I would count on the major networks. I would count on CHCO, good plug for CHCO, and but I wouldn't count so much on social media, because there is still a lot of stuff there. I'm not on there at all, so that I'm safe. But if you are, there is a lot of stuff that probably can't be relied upon as much as what you get on the CBC or CHCO-TV.
townofstandrews.ca, so that is the official website for the town of St. Andrews. There is a button at the top of the page that gives you up-to-date information on announcements from the town, but it also gives you direct link to the most reliable source from the province and from our federal government. So that's, once again, the top button. It's at townofstandrews.ca.
We have a question that was sent in to CHCO. It's how do you expect this will impact students? We also have a large international student population in town.
If you don't mind, Your Worship. And there's a reason there was a moment of silence here, because that is outside the scope of the local government to deal with that. NBCC and the college programs are all dealing with this on an as-needed basis. For obvious reasons, they're probably discouraging their people from leaving town, but we don't have direct connections with them. But I know the Multicultural Association is trying to intervene to try to provide things like that. As far as the schools and stuff, it's just a wait-and-see attitude. Officially, NBC is supposed to start again next week on Monday, and school is only closed until the next week. That could change. Other areas are talking 8 to 10 weeks of having school closures. But the town will keep you informed as soon as we know. We'll put it on our website and social media so parents and those that are affected can make suitable arrangements. And since the camera's on me, Your Worship, there's just a couple other things. One thing I forgot to mention, that there were elections, the municipal elections were supposed to be held on May the 11th. And for those that haven't heard, they're actually put through some legislation this week by an all-party committee of the legislature that it's being postponed till no later than May of next year. So this current council may be here for another year. They'll reevaluate, but they don't feel they want to run it in the fall because it's budget times for communities, and they feel that throwing an election in the middle of budget time will really create chaos in the system. So for all our council members that are here, we're happy to work with you for another year, and thank you for your service. It used to be a 3-year commitment not too long ago. Now it's 4, and I guess this one time is going to be 5. There is also some internal questions going about future meetings of council. Certainly we can keep people up to date through website and through emails to council. We will have to have a discussion on the government of council, that there's certain things that should be done. I'm not sure if we're just going to postpone all business. And for instance, we've received 3 tenders that we were going to approve at the April 30th committee meeting, which as of this time right now, I'm suspecting will not only be private, but may be canceled. But I do have concerns. Obviously, we have to look after public health first, but it'd be good to be able to continue with some of these projects, and so council should be aware of that and think of that until the next time we meet or communicate through other channels.
Mr. Spear, you're right. You're right to raise that, and that I think what will happen is that council will have to have a meeting of the minds at some point here before the end of the month and start to think about, how many things we put back on the agenda now that we have been told or voluntold that we're here for now, unless something drastic happens. Clearly, the emergency we're talking about tonight takes priority over anything else, but we're going to have to perhaps do a little bit more planning than we would have done had we thought that there was going to be an election on May the 11th. So that's now out of the way. We don't have to worry about that. We have to figure out what we do going forward, and who all is going to be around to do that. There will be some individual decisions, I'm sure, made by members of council in the next couple of weeks about where we go from here. And but it becomes very clear. I did happen to speak last night to the president of the Union of New Brunswick Municipalities, who was in attendance in the legislature, and said that he feels it's very unlikely, based on the debate, that the municipal elections will happen before the early spring, late winter, early spring of 2021. So that's pretty much. So it's the rest of this year, 2020. It's going to be the existing councils all around the province that will be then managing their municipalities.
Just to add on to that, Your Worship, there's been a number of important bylaws that council has been discussing. Some are obviously like the municipal plan, which is such an important document. The tourism accommodation levy is another great example. This council will not be meeting behind any closed doors, so if you're not hearing anything about a third reading and different things like that, it's because it's been tabled. The council is not leaving in May. We do have an extension. So the reality is we want staff not to be worrying about these bylaws. We want staff to be worrying about contingency planning and making sure communication from town hall to the public is happening. So we want to make sure that the public knows that all those bylaws are very much alive, but they are going to be sitting for probably an extended period of time as a result of these changes.
Through you, Your Worship, we haven't received any further questions from the public. At this time, I still would like to thank the public for their participation on the boards. There's been a lot of good discussion and feedback, and this has been a very useful process through live streaming and live broadcasting.
Thank you, and I think we'll wrap it up for now. Just reminding everyone out there that any questions, Town Hall, Mr. Knopper's available to try to respond to your questions. Mr. Spear, I want to thank both of them for, first of all, organizing this with CHCO-TV. I also want to thank members of our council for being here and helping to answer questions. I think that the message to the public is that the staff and the council of the town of St. Andrews are on the job, and we're not going anywhere, at least not until this crisis is over.